Um, so so basically, they have like World Series of Poker event, used to have satellites prior to the 10K events, which were the game where the satellite played the game of that 10K event. So like the night before, and it would be like a 1K for a 10K. So like the satellite would be a one. So the day before a 7 card stud 10K would be a 1K 7 card stud
I
satellite
remember
event.
that paper, yeah.
And
I don't know
so
if I played one, but
yeah, but I did, and so I liked them because every other time that it wasn't, it was a no limit hold'em event, and people would join thinking it's no limit hold'em, and then they would get like
like not
five
know how to
cards
play
and be like,
Fed.
what? And so like I played. This is part to set up what I'm talking the story that's coming here. So one of the ones that I played was the no limit single draw. And so if you're not familiar with that game, like, it takes a little know-how. Like, and so all the people that joined thinking it was no limit were like, oh shit. Um, so I did well in that one and I ended up getting a seat or something like that. And then I texted you after and I said, what are you doing? You said, I'm at Aria, come over and we'll get something to eat. And I said, okay. So I drove to Aria and you were playing in a cash game and I sat down like next to you at the cash game and you were like kind of finishing up and you were like, okay, let's get something to eat. And so you you said, all right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, you play my stack. And I was like, you sure? And you were like, yeah. And then then you said it's no limit single draw. And you said, do you know how to play that? And I was like, well, I did just win the tournament that was going on for this event. And you were like, oh, perfect. And so the first hand that we play, Viffer's under the gun, and it was like 501K or something, and Viffer makes it 3K, and I make it 11K.
What do you
You're
have?
you go to the bathroom. You're like in the bathroom,
What do you
and
have?
okay, so I make it
Tell that
11K.
at the end. All right, you're surprising us. All right, all right.
Yes.
Sorry.
So you this is the part like you didn't. I don't think I don't know how much you knew about this, but I make it 11K, and gets back to Viffer, and he's like very confused because I think everyone at the table like wasn't sure if this was a bit or like if Viffer was gonna like keep the money, and I was like, no, this is like real. This is I'm really playing, and so he so Viffer calls and draws two, and I
By the way, guys, that never happens in single draw. Like you don't
he's under the gun too.
nowadays you don't draw one often, let alone two.
Right. So he calls, draws two, and I pat, and he leads for 40K. And so I'm like freaking out internally because you're in the
Okay.
bathroom. This is real. And so it's kind of like I have the options are like immediately it's like a Pascal's wager type of thing. I have like a few options like call and lose and like and then I remember telling Viffer these things. I was like, you're really putting my friendship with Tom in jeopardy here because there's like a few options. And I was like, there's a lot of options that are like fine and some are bad, some are good, but like some are worse than others. And I was like, call
It's
and lose
probably
is
not 501K, by the way. It's probably like 300, 600 with a big ante or 200,
yeah,
400.
okay. So
So
whatever.
like,
It ended
I'm
up being
guessing
so
your 3K and your 11K numbers are right, but the
yeah.
blinds, I'm guessing you might not have exactly remembered, right? The 3K and
Yeah,
11K,
yeah, yeah.
or your
But
mind
it
would
was
be close.
yeah, close enough. And so
But
my
this sounds like a
hand,
big pot for that game because like those no
right.
limit draw games, usually a 50K bet was like a very big bet, you know.
Yeah. And
And I'm guessing
so
I must have been up a lot to be letting you play, but
yeah, and
I
it was
still was
deuce,
probably expecting you might win or lose 5K, not 50, right? I would have been
right.
like,
Or,
shit.
if I get a wheel, I know how to play that.
Right, right.
Yeah. And so now I was like sitting there thinking for a while, and then I had so I'll tell you what I had. I had 97542.
Oh, that's a tough spot.
And so so
So
like
you guys to
so
know in single
immediately I
draw,
was like
like Mikey played it right. That's a quite good hand. If he has an eight, he's basically just got to pay it off. It's single draw.
yeah, so obviously I'm
That like
calling
you
like
can't
eight
just
perfect.
auto fold, but he's also betting like 1.6x pot. Like you can't, it's a tough spot. And especially
And the
because Mikey
dynamic. of
Yeah,
like,
the dynamic makes it different. He's not bluffing the right amount here. He's either bluffing like almost never or 5 times as much as he should. I don't
right.
know which, but like it's very
And
unlikely he's like randomized here because the
yeah,
dynamic.
and so you're still in the bathroom and like this whole thing's going on and like fucking like true tellers at the table, like all, this was like a table full of like brainiacs. And then Viffer does this and I was like, look, I was like, God damn it, man. I was like, either he's like so good that he knew I have like a 9-7, or I was like, and then I was like, well, also if he has like a super good hand, then I kind of felt like he's going to go for the check raise because I'm going to bet for value. A lot of hands that I three bet, especially given that situation. I was like, so if he has like a 7 or something, I felt like he was going to check raise, and so I was like, oh man, I don't know. So I thought for a long time, and you're still in the bathroom, and I ended up folding, and then he showed, and I was like, you have to show because this is going to like really impact my friendship with Tom, and he was like, okay, and he showed 8 perfect, so.
Mikey, you fucking saved me 40K. All right. I hope
So
I bought yeah.
I got away from it, yeah. And
Fucking
I was like, and then afterwards, I remember being like we went to dinner or something. I was like, yeah. I was like, I remember kind of like telling you about the hand, but you were like involved in something else. You're like, yeah, I don't care, or something. And I was like, I lost 11K, but I was like, I feel like it could have been significantly worse.
yeah, I mean that would have been a very reasonable payoff. Like very
Yeah, and
reasonable.
then the other idea was like, I wish I had like quad sevens in that hand because
No,
then he's getting all of it.
no, no, because in that spot, it's just like in single draw, it's so hard to get a really good pad hand. Like he's never folding a perfect.
Right,
He's
right,
like
right, right, right.
he's gonna be like, I don't know, maybe the kid doesn't know the rules perfect, whatever. No,
Yeah, yeah.
no,
Or it was like some sort of bit that we concocted to try to squeeze, like,
nah,
and then I was like,
I'm not
that's
gonna
that's
think
so
that.
weird.
No, no,
Yeah.
no.
So that was a
Make money.
story
I mean,
that,
people may think that if you put out one raise for 3K, right? But the
yeah,
stuff it's like a re-raise and big chips coming out and shit, people are like, okay, something's going on. Either
yeah. I
he's
was like, this
got a
is,
really good
and
hand or he's misjudging, you
yeah,
know?
and then Viffer was like, I think, but he must have had trips or something, and then he drew two.
Probably if he drew two, yeah.
I would have that's kind of what I got the vibe on, and
He
he was
also
like,
might have thought there's a like if he thinks you might be drawn one a little more than you should,
yeah,
then it's not that bad, right? Like if someone doesn't know the game, if you're playing versus someone good, maybe you're losing 2,000 to call that drawn
yeah,
two.
yeah,
If he had, say, a pair in his hand or something, it might even be slightly more. But if it's someone that doesn't know, maybe you can make up for that 2,000. So he's probably like,
yeah. I wish we
back.
could go back and run it, and he misses, and we could see what he would have bet. I would have liked to
No,
see
he
that.
probably wouldn't have bluffed you because like
I
people don't
think I
like,
think that I think that's true.
yeah. And especially the fact that he went so big kind of shows
Yeah,
probably didn't expect you to, right? Because like I would have expected often him to bet, when you tell me that hand 30K, 32K, like it's
yeah,
common in single draw to bet slightly over pot,
yeah.
but
But that was a lot.
that's a lot over like 1.6x.
Yeah,
And especially versus in that situation, someone playing for me, right? It's not a normal situation. Someone's
right.
playing all that. So he must have just thought like this kid's not folding, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I don't know. That was a weird one. All right. I have like so as was said, telling
So,
you,
all right, wait, hang on. Now that you're done with
yeah,
that, how do I make my chat? Someone said in the chat,
you
uh,
should you should be able to read the chat.
no, but right now I wrote stuff in the chat and mine is just to host and panel. Oh, here we go. Okay, everyone.
But just so you know, my colleagues Andy and Emil's are watching, and they will
Well, here,
if
now mine's everyone. Uh,
if there's like a particular question that's good, they're going to add it to my sheet,
oh
and
yeah,
I'll
no,
have
I'm
it.
not gonna read it the whole time, but I just, as you were talking, I had said something, so I'm gonna write it again.
Okay.
Yeah, so they asked me to talk about, I said I'd talk about it as long as you remember, but let's just talk about it now. They asked about the Queen's hand versus Wesley.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. Well, all right. So like, this is kind of a good, I didn't remember the story at all, like, but this is a good, it flows kind of natural.
Okay.
Like,
Go for it.
story you just told is a good example of how sometimes shit comes up and it changes, you know, now there's a lot of good AI tools, right? You can go to GTO Wizard and like it, follow their stuff for most games, and that's going to generally do better than people, usually by a lot. Uh, but you know, if you're, for example, if someone's playing against you in that hand, they could do way better than GTO Wizard because it's so weird. It's like I went to the
Right,
bathroom,
right,
you're
right,
in the
right.
top, right? And so there's situations that come up that are complicated because there's other factors. So you don't want to try to play, you know, an unexploitable way. You want to actually try to exploit the situation,
Yeah,
right? If you're the guy giving away the info, then you want to trend more towards the unexploitable side, right? If you're playing the guy that's like, you know, you're sitting there for me for 5 minutes and I went to the bathroom. And if it's someone that plays single draw a lot, they want to be like, oh shit, how do I get in the streets and figure something out
right.
about this goat farmer, you know? And anyway, so the Wesley hand, you know, I think Doug and Wesley both had this view, they might still have it, that they never give away live reads. Yet we played for 8 hours and I got like two of the biggest live reads ever on TV off of both of them in two different hands, you know? And that doesn't mean I was certain, right? Like any guess, any read, you're never certain, right? Like you're
Yeah,
gonna
it's never going to be the Oreo, you know?
right, like that shit just very rarely happens. And then even if it does, you kind of don't want to let people see it and whatever. And like and then if it's someone good, like me and Phil, if we were playing each other, you'd sometimes notice something and the other person would notice you noticed it, so they'd trick you back,
Right,
you know.
right.
Um, and but anyway, so that hand, you know, they were just being a little sloppy. They were giving a little too much out. And the thing is, like, realistically, if me and you sat there all day, every day, like, do you play PLO much?
Yeah,
Not a ton, right?
yeah, no, PLO,
Or I'm saying, what do you play more? No limit, PLO, what's
PLO for sure.
okay? How about did you ever play Polymer Triple Draw?
Yeah,
All right, how I'm what 100 hours, something like that.
less.
Okay, so if me and you sat there for a week and we were playing some ring game, whatever, something like that, playing Polymer Triple Draw, um, generally I'd be getting a lot more reads on you than you would on me, right?
Yeah,
Also, I know the game better and stuff like that. That said, if one time you had a beer or two, or one time you talked a little as you're playing, you're a pretty smart guy. Like, I wouldn't advise it. It would give me a little extra, but it wouldn't be that much probably. Right. But now instead, imagine, you know, three people come up or talking to you, you had 5 beers, and then you're talking to someone else and they see your hand. Like, yeah,
yeah,
that's really shouldn't do that if it's a
right,
game
right,
like
right.
where you shouldn't do that in PLO, but like maybe you can find your way around. You do that in Polymer Triple Draw with me, like you're gonna get owned. You know, it's just like I
Yeah,
know so much better. Sometimes you're gonna give away really good stuff. And so Wesley and Doug were doing that stuff a bit much those days. And you know, at least I think it was maybe I only played one day that year or something, maybe it was 2 days. But you know, it like you start noticing little things,
yeah,
right? Like when I started noticing those, I don't want to be like, oh, it looks like he's weak here. He raised to 5K. I could steal it. Right. I want to be like, file that shit away in the back of my brain
yeah,
in case it's right. If there's an hour to go, fine, give me the 5K if I'm pretty sure I can get it. Right. But
yeah,
if a bunch of hours to go, like, hey, you never know, something might come up. And so that Queen's hand, you know, I was really high confidence Wesley didn't have aces. I also thought if he had kings, like a number of things would have gone down different. And you know, those were the only two hands I really had an opinion on. But then if you have queens, you know, you want to go all in, right? If you can discount,
yeah.
say,
Yes,
is
yes, yes.
95%,
Those are the only two hands that matter in this
right, if you can
situation.
discount, you know, I probably thought I could discount aces by the end of
Enough.
it, 90 to 95%, early in the hand, maybe 70 or 80, maybe 85, I don't know. And kings, like by the end of the hand, maybe 80 to 90. No, I mean maybe more by the end of the hand. But earlier in the hand, less. But then as it developed, you know, the kings I could discount quite a bit also. And so it was like, I remember being worried, like, does this fucker have 7-9 or an 8? Like, you know, that was very possible. But also, if you go look at the GTO, if you discount aces and
Yeah,
kings, it's not even close. It's an instant snap call every street, you know?
yeah,
And like when I called the flop in the turn, you know, if he could have read my mind, he should have just ran out of the casino and like never bet another chip. Like I was not going to be folding, right? I'm
Yeah.
not for sure I was going to try because I'm like really going in the streets there making a crazy read so I could reevaluate for sure, you know. Um, but yeah, you know, if he could have paused time and read my mind, he should not have followed the other bullets, you
Sure.
know, followed through.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, so I was just pretty high confidence on that one. And then on the Doug hand, which was like a similar thing, it was when I had sevens, I think, on King 7-6 deuce. And I did a really insane play. Like if that was me and Phil Galfon, you know, I'm almost always re-raising the turn. It's just like I don't know if I ever actually like put this into a GTO wizard type, but it's a pretty clear spot to re-raise the turn.
Yeah.
And I really discounted also because of their talk and stuff and like a few other things. I really discounted twos and sixes in that hand. I thought kings was still a small chance, but I probably slightly discounted those, but really discounted the twos and sixes. I don't know. I might even increase the king's chance small. I don't know, but you know, like realistically, like I played that hand pretty crazy by just calling the turn, and I picked up an extra 400 big blinds or something for it from his river bet. And I think both of those are just examples of like, if me and you were sitting there playing PLO and you're having two beers and you're doing the same stuff they're doing over the course of 20 hands, probably 16 or 17 of the 20, I'm going to discount and be like, Mikey's smart. I have nothing good. You know, probably three or four, I'll think I have a read. Maybe one I'll be wrong. The others, maybe I'll be a little
Yeah.
right. This was way different. It's on TV. There's a bunch of pressure, you know, like these
Yeah.
guys are used to it. They're also like, you know, you might not be as good at poker as Doug, especially, I would think, but even
I would,
Wesley,
I'm comfortable saying that.
but you know, two people saw this hand, right? Those two are going to give away way more reads than even you by far. Even if you're two beers in, even if it's whatever, right? Like they set up a situation where they're going to give away so much.
It's
And it
funny
happened.
you bring this up. I was in a no limit game somewhat recently, and the guy on my left shows me his hand pre-flop because it was like the second to last hand of the night, and he's like, "All right, here, Mikey, get a sweat." And I look at it; it's nines. Then the dude on my right is like, "All right, Mikey, get a look. You know, second to last hand, I'll let you sweat it." So this guy shows me, and it's kings. And I was like, okay. And so I'm just sitting there, and then what? Kings raises, nines calls, two other people call. Flop is king 9-3. So I'm sitting in my chair like this. And then the kings guys like looking at me, and then the nines guys like looking at me, and I'm just like looking straight ahead,
Right.
just like sitting there like this, and then raise. Then the other guy had like the other guy has like Jack 10 and decides to go for it because it's second to last hand of the night. And I was like, oh, bad timing. Then the Kings guy shoves, nines guy calls. They all everyone's getting it in. It's like a $8,000 pot on the second to last time. And the whole time I was just like sitting there like, and then like, why didn't you? And I was like, I didn't do anything. I'm just sitting here. And then the other thing that comes to mind when you said that is I remember seeing something on YouTube or Instagram or something where it was John Smoltz and he was talking about how uh like it was a regular season baseball game. John Smoltz was a pitcher and he threw like I don't know, three balls, then two strikes, and then he throws this like really far outside pitch with this release, and he ended up walking in the winning run. And then they were like, the catcher was like, after the game, why did you do that? That seems like we shouldn't have done that. You could have just thrown a strike. We could have done this. And he was like, I think we're going to see them in the playoffs again or something like that. And so
Really?
yeah. And it was like, they get to the playoffs and crucial spot. The same guy gets up, same count, 3-2. And he throws like a really wide arcing pitch. And instead it was like a strike down the middle. And the guy thinks it's going to be a ball and he, catches him looking and he's like, yeah, well, that's why we gave up that one game in the regular season to get the huge out in, that situation. So it's kind of like what you're saying, where you bank something for the critical moment. Maybe you give
When
up,
sometimes you do it and it never happens, and you're like, oh
but
shit,
yes, and then it's fine.
I'm here too.
Yeah.
No.
And then
But it's
sometimes it works
also
out.
a lot of times, you know, let's say they raise to 5K and I'm 80% they're folding and I'm in the button with a 8-7 offsuit. Yeah, maybe I'm making 2,000 to re-raise, but you still have the blinds. I still could be wrong. I still,
Right, right, right.
So sometimes it's better to be like, and one thing a lot of people get wrong in those spots is a lot of people will sit there studying, right? And like Wesley and Doug aren't idiots. You sit there studying even two, three times, they're going to notice. Even once, they might notice. And then all of a sudden, they might false read you, they might whatever, and one thing I was always, I think one of the best at least of like the online kids that came up. If I noticed something, I tried to let no one know until it was like,
Time to
and
deploy.
yeah, maybe you can't hide it. Everyone at the table's like, what the fuck did you just do?
Yeah.
But until you're like you tax someone proper, like why let anyone know? It just doesn't, why show your cards early? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Well, especially in the games that you're playing where, your competition
those
is going to
games
be
are
the
dead
same
now.
people
But
day in and day
mm,
out.
back in the
Y-
day, they used to be good. Now, the AI
Yeah.
tool killed everything. So
Well, I
you,
want to get into
you
I
see
want to
how
get
I
into
feel
that. We have
about it.
a handful of questions about that. And so um, I want to ask you about basically, we're talking about it now, but you've played every stake of poker, every variant of poker, live, online, live in the US, live in 25 different countries, all sorts of stuff. I want you to talk about the difference in high stakes live games, particularly in like Vegas and LA versus like the Asian ones.
Well, so one thing is like a lot of people that play poker are nowhere near concerned enough about cheating. The money on the back of two pieces of plastic can be worth thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands or more. It's like, believe me, I know better. It's not that fucking hard for people to cheat you. There's a lot of stuff I knew of my whole life. I think I was pretty good at dodging most of it. One time I got tagged hard and I can't, not can't, but it would be um, not that reasonable for me to share a lot of details about that right now.
Sure.
Uh, but there's a lot of stories I know, and usually that shit gets swept under the rug. And
This is
I
primarily live games that you're talking.
yeah, I mean, but like sometimes in casinos, there was stuff
Yeah,
in
right.
in European countries. There were
Yeah,
there was recent stuff even in Vegas, right? And like that one, uh, you know, some people you would know of that I know like surprisingly did the right thing, but like the casinos normally would have pushed that shit under the rug. And maybe in Vegas it was a little easier to get out where only like one guy had to do the right thing and then it got out a little. But because like Nevada Gaming is probably the best gaming commission in the world, they're kind of a
sure.
gold, but even still there's issues, right? Like, and I think people just are not, they just try to ignore and avoid and think like, oh, unless this comes out, it's not true. But I mean, there's so many times I've had where I tried to warn people like, yo, I heard something pretty credible. I'd be careful. And they go play and they're like, lose seems suspicious. They're like, what'd you hear? And I'm like, fuck you, buddy. I'm not like, I tried to give you the warning. Like, I'm not trying to go get involved with whatever crazy shit. And I think a lot of people just don't, it's hard to think about that kind of stuff and they don't want to wrap their heads around it. Um, one tip I can give related to that is it's not very easy to tell when you are being cheated. One thing you can often notice is when it seems like you're probably not. And that's more when like the vibe is a little more relaxed. There's not a ton of weird shit going on, right? When it's like when you can ask more natural questions, right? When you can ask, was something weird? If people actually try to answer you two or three times, all right, then they're probably not. It doesn't mean for sure, right? But actually, I've seen it a lot of times where people get suspicious, and then if someone gives them some reasonable answer that's not perfect, they're like, "See, I knew it. Something's up." Like usually in that case, actually nothing's up. Usually the times there's an issue is when people aren't even trying to give an answer, you know.
Right.
Um, and it's if one time, for example, let's say you're in some game and I say, "Oh, I saw your cards," or something like that, or vice versa. Sometimes other people get suspicious with stuff like that. It's like, yo, actually, if you hear those things, you should be more calm. If people seem to be trying to do the right thing, probably there's no giant underlying scam. It's still possible, but
Yeah.
um,
In
and
in the Asian games, you know how was it being like an outsider? How hard was it for you? And I don't know, did you seem to fit in over time, or how did that work?
I mean, I was in some pretty unique spots and situations. I think especially like you knew, I think a little of Paul's case and the stuff
Yeah,
after. And so, I tried to juggle a bunch of different interests there. A bunch of the Chinese guys, Paul and Richard that I was good friends with, their sons who I was friends with. Also, other people in the case that I was somewhat friendly with, but like a lot more arm's length than other people just around it. And then like, those guys may not care about America or US government. I actually do a bit, right? Like I think the US government was way in the wrong on that case and like shitting on the Fourth Amendment. But, that doesn't mean like, I
yeah,
remember
it's a
being out
tough
in the States,
spot.
I said to like one of the FBI guys, I was like, just go after Paul for something else. You guys are fucking wrong about this.
Yeah,
Like I wasn't going to tell him what, but yeah, of course, like there were little infractions they could have got those guys for. They're not, they
yeah,
jaywalk or whatever, right? But like it happened, this thing they were alleging was wildly untrue. They tried to throw a lot of stuff on there. And so I think out of that, some of the Chinese boss types trusted me to varying levels
sure.
because it's a pretty common thing that like a lot of Westerners would think like they just want to go there, they make the money, they don't care who they hurt, right? And I
Sure.
know sometimes like some of the American business guys, whatever, would show up. There's one particular that jumps to mind, but I'm not going to say who. And he showed up and was asking me for reads on the Chinese guys of like we're Americans, let's work together. And
Yeah,
this
yeah,
I met like twice, and he's asking me for reads on Paul, who I knew for like 7 years and is my good friend. And I'm like, dude, like,
yeah.
what's wrong with you?
Like
Like, of course
I get that we're both white guys, but
not.
like,
Yeah, like,
this isn't prison. Like we don't, we're not automatically clicked up because of our, based solely on skin color.
yeah. But so, you know, the, there were some really good experiences I had. And so like there was one game that ran for a year and a half, uh some Macau, some I'll just say it, fuck it. Some Macau, some Hong Kong, some other parts of the world. But you know, that game was great and there were no material issues, at least that I had. But then there was a ton of complications around a bunch of the other ones and shit.
Sure.
So
So on that note, I want to ask you, I think everybody that's played poker for any, amount of time, especially live poker, has a story of like, especially even if it's like 10, 20 or lower, where a random guy shows up and is shoving every hand and loses 30 buy-ins or something like that. I want to know you don't have to tell the game or, get specific, but I want to know your craziest,
craziest walk-in.
yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you the
And I
craziest
get
walk.
it. You're, not a
I'll
lot
tell
of people are just
you,
going to be dropping by to play 2K, 4K,
we're
but give us
playing
your
in a
craziest.
junket room in Macau. I'm not going to say which casino. This is probably fucking 10 years ago or something. And a guy walks in and starts playing. And I remember there's this hand and he's like bet and I call and he pulls his chips back or something like that. Right. And this guy that if I'm not going to say who, but if I said the name, you would know this guy. Like I can text you or
Okay.
whatever. Who doesn't speak any English, basically says to me, like, he's sitting next to me and he like looks at me, like taps me, he's like, fucking let it go. Like, trust me. And so I'm like, all right, fine, like, yes, boss, whatever. But like, so I'm like, is this guy some fucking government guy? Is he some giant fish? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on? Whatever. And I don't end up asking until after the game, right? Shit's going on, whatever. The walking guy ended up losing, I want to say it was either 7 or 9 mil US walking, cold fucking walking. Had to make
Yeah.
calls to have people bring whatever.
Yeah.
And I had a pretty small piece of myself in this game, I think, but and then finally, like a day or two later, I don't know if I, asked like through a translator, that guy or if someone else asked or whatever. And it comes back like, no, that guy just made a read that this guy was a stone fish, right? And my little like 200K call,
Oh,
he
so
was
he
just,
didn't
oh,
know?
trust me. He didn't know, right? Like he may have had one or two
But
details, but he
and like you making a big stink could have sent him to the rail,
oh,
because he
for
gets pissed
sure, it would
off.
have been a problem. And the guy that said it, like it was his right to say it. He had done me so many favors for
Yeah.
years. Like anyone else at the table saying like let your 300K go, I would have been like, no way. Plus, people have a piece of me.
Yeah.
But I say, and it was a big fish that I had won a lot from, usually with the same kind of people. So when he was like, just let it go, I was like, all right, buddy, but like, why? And then his story of why, if I had known the story, I'd have been like, are you fucking kidding? But
Yeah.
by 2 or 3 days later, it had panned out like he was spot on. Like, good read,
Yeah, well, that's a better read than like this is the guy that's gonna like shoot you immediately. Like
I mean, just because of the game I was in, I was like, I don't think that's
that's
possible,
the kid. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, you know, but obviously it was in the back of my head as something like that, but I didn't think that was
yeah.
possible.
Didn't feel the need to push it at the moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I like, but also because the way the guy said it to me, he wasn't like, you gotta, he was more like, please let it go.
Just do it. Just
So
trust me.
that's
Yeah.
kind of, yeah. And I was like, I don't, fuck you. All right, fine, I will, but I don't, like, and then he was spot on. His read was spot on. Like,
Okay. There's a couple of prop bets I want to ask you about. The one that I was reminded about yesterday by my colleague, this was about the limit Holdem machine that was set up outside of Aria. And I bring it up because I fancy myself a limit Holdem player. I liked limit Holdem. So like I remember it being like the talk of the town when it first came out because it was like, oh shit, like they're saying that they can beat you at limit Holdem now. And so you can correct me,
well,
you can step in and correct me where I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the highest stakes that they offered was like 10-20 or something like that.
I think there was 40-80 in one of
Okay,
those, but
whatever the case was.
most of them were 20-40. The
20-40,
40,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the
As
single
the highest
top.
stake you can play.
Yeah.
And there was a certain group of people that thought that the machine was the nuts, and then
Which is
obviously
fucking retarded.
you thought you were.
Well, no,
And
no. So all right. So
yeah,
to
go
give
ahead.
context, I wasn't very good at limit hold'em. Like I had
Well,
still,
don't be like Phil Galfond when you say
no, I'm saying I'm going to
I'm
explain.
not good at something and
I
you're
had
like only
still,
like eighth in the world at it or something. You know
right.
what
I
I
had
mean?
still battled people at 2K, 4K
That's what I'm saying.
a
Like,
bunch of hands, which was the highest
yeah,
stake.
I know people that are not good at limit hold'em. You're
At
not
that
one of the
time,
people that
I was
aren't good.
probably top 100 in the world in limit, and it might have been like
Yeah, that's what I'm
it might have
saying.
been quite a bit lower than that. And like these guys might have thought I was number a million or whatever. It was like, and the thing was, there's I might have been the best person ever at limit hold'em to give this thing a shot,
Sure.
right? Because why would anyone else? They're
I
playing
don't I
24.
don't think Eric 123 was sitting there playing
Yeah, are they trying to make $200 an hour? And
yeah.
these idiots set up a situation where at peak, I think I was playing like I want to say it was 3K, 6K, or 3.5.
Yeah, I
The
I
time was
remember
like
that.
1500, 3K, or 2K, 4K. And dude, I'm telling you, the thing must have been losing five big blinds, 100. Like, if you're not good at limit and you had 10 beers and we played, I don't think you'd be losing five big blinds, 100. That's impossible. Like, to lose one or two is hard, right?
Yeah.
Like, and this thing was so bad. I remember you could show the cards, and I remember
Yes,
that
yes, yes. You click
I
show
showed
cards.
the
Yeah.
cards, and it was
Yeah.
so bad. And someone who was betting against me was watching, and I just like went like this with my shoulder to
To
try to cover the
cover.
screen so they wouldn't see. Because it was like, if you see this, you need to just quit every bet. Like this thing has no chance.
Yeah.
And even like two of my buddies had bet against me, and I gave them like a proper warning, and I was like, yo, like you have no chance, like you please don't, I don't want your money, whatever. And then one of them came over and was watching, and this one hand I showed, and he started saying something. I was like, buddy, shut the fuck up. Like I solid to tell you you're on the wrong side, but like you can't do that. Like you only know to come watch because I told you you're
Yeah.
giving me money. um Dude, this thing was so bad. It was like there were a few specific things it did that were just giant leaks. Like on ace and king high boards was one of them, which comes up all the time, right? How often is there an ace or king high board? Probably
Right.
from, I don't know, 30%, 25%, right? And one funny thing is Bobby Baldwin was the CEO of the casino at the time. And so
Yeah.
all these guys are betting against me and I'm winning, and they're all like, it's impossible. He's getting so lucky, blah, blah, blah. And like Bobby came out, they were playing some big game and asked like once or twice. And then at some point when I was already up a lot, there must have been a time like not many people around or whatever. And he was like, what's the deal, kid? And I'm like, "Yo, it has no chance, but please don't tell anyone." And Bobby's like, all right, I won't, but like, thanks for telling me. I don't know if he, cheers
Uh,
me or pounds me or whatever. Fast forward like the next day, he comes out and all these guys are sitting there like nervously watching. And he's like, you like that fix I put in on that machine, kid? You got it, right? And he's the CEO of the casino and he's
yeah.
just
Yeah.
with that. And at first I'm like, oh God, he blew my spot. And then like these guys that are betting against me actually think that means
Yeah,
that he knows I'm drawing dead. They're like, the casino's on our side. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But like, they were so dumb. It's 2040. I think I beat the casino for like $6,000,
right,
$4,000.
right. Something irrelevant compared to
Right,
the
and I was
stakes.
making
Yeah,
sure, because I said something, I was like, if Bobby, if somehow you realize that like I have edge here, I'll go play blackjack every day, like extra these few days. Please don't
yeah.
pull the machine. And he's like, all right, you got a few days, kid.
You
Like,
click cash out on the voucher and it says like $500 in real dollars, but like it's actually worth like $500,000 with the opposite
yeah,
side
I
action
mean,
that
I
you
think I
had.
was playing like a times 1,000 or something. I forget exactly, but
I vaguely remember that. So
and
I
so then
thought
I
that was
would
cool.
go, let's say I won 5K, I would walk right to like a blackjack table with 20K and be like, oh, dust it.
Yeah,
Okay, cool,
yeah, yeah,
bye.
yeah.
You can't be too mad. Yeah.
Okay, there was a couple more. Oh, I wanted to ask you, I remember meeting your parents a bunch of times, and they always seemed like your biggest fans, which I thought was so cool. How do you think having their support impacted your success at the tables?
Yeah, I think a lot. My mom's here visiting me, my girlfriend right now. My dad passed away in 2016. But I think it impacted me a lot in life, including in poker. I had a very lucky childhood. And that stuff impacts you in more ways than you know. And as you get older, you start realizing some of it. If you had asked 23-year-old me, I think I would have not given them anywhere
Yeah,
near the credit they
who gives a
deserve.
shit?
Probably a little bit, but not.
Yeah,
But in hindsight, I can say like, you know, uh, there's some stuff I messed up in my life or didn't get right or some mistakes I made or whatever. But like, there's also some stuff. Sometimes I surprise people, right? The limit bot, other stuff like
sure.
that. And even with some really stressful situations, a little of stuff lately. There's a few times I surprise people, and I think a lot of that comes from like the love I had as a kid and my parents and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, I think 22-year-old me might have. I was pretty good at math, that kind of shit, but I think a lot of it actually was that it gave me that like hunger
Yeah,
and that drive, like having all that support, and I think it helped a lot.
yeah. I felt like, anytime you did something, it was like, I remember like if you're at a final table of an event, it's like your parents, sitting right there,
I didn't
yeah,
make too many
Tom.
final tables because I wasn't great at tournaments, but yeah.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, no, they
They
did.
were there often.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a bunch of questions that are submitted by people that I do want to get to. I want to ask the last one of my questions. So basically, this is a rapid fire. I'm going to give you a name or a word, and I want you to give me the first thing that comes to mind. And you can say pass if you want.
All right.
No, you're not on the hook.
All right.
And not a setup, but it's just your first thing that comes to mind. And there's a handful. Phil Ivey,
Eyes.
David Benjamin,
I have such a good one, but I can't. No. I'll text you that one.
All right. Full tilt poker.
Fuckers. Fuck.
Gus
Chowdy.
Hansen.
Chowdy. Um, Gus. Yeah. Crazy Gus.
Howard Lederer.
I still don't know, man.
Z and Hack.
Oh, they're cool, man. They're cool. You still
Um, Daniel Negreanu.
wait, you got to answer the last one. Do you still talk to them? Z and Hack?
I talked to Hack 2 days ago.
Oh, nice. Negreanu, look, I always got along with him. You're getting more than one word here, but the shit he did when I was in London is just so fucking out of line. So
There's no limit, not limiting you to one word, so you can
yeah,
expand or not.
look, I don't think the guy has a bad heart, but yeah, he did something wildly out of line. So, I mean, I said he was committing a felony. It's accurate. Like I'm not trying to
Fair.
get him a problem for it, but like you can't fucking put me in danger because you want to tell a story about your 10-year-old felony and not think I'm going to cause you a problem. Like what the fuck, bro? Anyway,
Patrick Antonius,
yeah, he's chill.
Zygmunt.
I like that guy. He's a fucking lunatic. He's crazy, but did you ever hear the stories of when we were in Australia with Zygmunt?
Uh, Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if we do like another, I would do another one of these in a month or
Okay.
something. Maybe I would talk about it then,
All
but
right,
I'm
let's put a pin in that and we'll
yeah, back
revisit
burner.
that on a future episode.
Yeah.
Alex Michaels,
Yeah, he was my buddy. We haven't chatted in a while, but he's a cool guy.
SB Rugby,
That's a blast from the past. Yeah.
Chinese poker,
Like
the game
poker
itself.
in China or Chinese
No,
poker?
Chinese poker, the game.
Oh, I never liked that one.
Guy La Liberté.
Pass.
Lastly, Phil Galfond.
Oh, he's my buddy, man. I like Phil. I'll tell you guys a Phil story. I don't know if I said this
Okay.
publicly before. You might know this, I'm not sure. So on Phil's wedding day, um, I was like going to get a drink at the bar, I think, or something like that. And Farah, his wife, came
Yeah.
over. And Farah wasn't feeling good. And I was like, oh, there's a remedy for that, tequila shots, you know. And then I was like, oh, I'm just kidding. Like, what can I get? Can I get you water, whatever? She's like, oh, tequila shots, good idea. So she goes up to the bartender. She's like, tequila shots, please. And the bartender's like, you know, maybe he had heard or something. He's like, I thought you're not feeling good, right? Something like that. And so it's me and Farah and the bartender, and there's this conversation of like, you know, maybe you shouldn't have a tequila shot. I was joking. I'm an idiot. Blah blah blah. Like, what? She's like, are you guys really trying to tell the bride what to do at her own wedding? 3 tequila shots. Me and the bartender look at each other. We're like, oh fuck. Cheers, and do the shots. Fast forward a little later, she wasn't feeling good, and Phil's like quite mad. He's like, "Who did this? Who gave Farrah shots?" I'm like,
And Fair is not like Fair is not a very big woman. I don't think that she is going to be one shot is going to impact her significantly differently
Well, I
than
mean,
it
I think
impacts
she
you.
already had a few drinks, and
Yeah,
my suggestion as a joke wouldn't get. I forgot that she could, just pull rank because she was
fair
about.
enough. Okay, I'm gonna jump into a handful from other people, so I want to make sure that we try to answer. I grouped them together as much as I could to try to ask one question that satisfies a bunch. But what was your favorite or most profitable exploit against other pros from Rail Heaven days on Full Tilt?
Um, I think the favorite I have was there was like often, I don't know that one specific one comes to mind, but there was often stuff people wouldn't do, like, oh, if this guy check raises the turn, then he'll never bluff the river, or then he'll won't bluff if this changes, or will bluff too much of this. It was usually frequency based. Um, and actually that was kind of true both online and live. And it wouldn't always port one to one. Like sometimes people
Sure.
would be more balanced online or would be more balanced live. Um, but yeah, I think that like I didn't understand GTO type stuff that well then, but I had like some vague kind of zoomed out view of like, oh, maybe like you should try to be a bit more balanced. Everyone else didn't seem to be like thinking about that any, and I
Yeah.
didn't like keep up with the times of like using all the tools the amount I should and whatever. But yeah, those were like my favorites, were like frequency based things, because there were certain times where it was like when this guy does this, he's just almost never bluffing or whatever.
Um, Somewhat related to that, but do you think it's possible in today's games for somebody to have a rise like you, like Phil, like Hack and Z, where you deposit, you're playing $50 no limit hold'em, and over time you make it to nosebleeds.
Unless it's either manufactured or a lot of luck, because I think it's just like our edges back then were so big.
Right.
You can't find those in the games now. So you'd need to either be like manufacturing it by like you're playing games no one else can access, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so then that would probably be like some site trying to build someone up to be famous, which I think has happened a lot. Or like you won a few tournaments or whatever. Sure.
Sure.
But it used to be we would like grind it out. Like you try to be the best at, $2, $4, then you go up to 5, 10, and you're
Yeah.
playing all people that already did what you just did, and a lot of them are good, and fucking they're taxing you. You're learning from them. Now it's way different because everyone can just go and get like, you know, something like a GTO wizard. I think there's other solvers too. I think they're the best. But get answers that are basically exact, often exact or very close to it. Back in the day, you were all like learning for yourself. It was
Yeah.
way different. And that's part of why it was in some respects more complicated or in some respects harder, but you got so much more money for it. Um,
Yeah, I think nowadays 2-4 is like, hard. It's like compared to 2-4 20 years ago, it's like it's very made up of very different
yeah, it's
people.
probably like 200, 400 20 years ago, or maybe
Yeah,
even harder or
yeah.
whatever. I
Like
don't
people are,
know.
fine play like yes, there are bad players at 2-4, but it's like the
Yeah.
people, 20 years ago, very different type of bad player, I suppose. Um, okay,
Well,
I had a question earlier that I didn't ask, but it's relevant to what we were just talking
we
about.
used to also have people come that like not only were they bad, but other people, even if they were good, they didn't know how to exploit them. And
Sure.
now people are a lot. There's just so many tools. It's hard to have such a big gap.
Yeah, I remember talking to Hack at one point, and he was like, "Yeah, they were playing no limit on party 10-20, and he was like, "Yeah, you just three bet pre-flop and then bet like 10% pot on the flop, and you just like that's all you have to do. Like you just
Yeah,
win a
but
lot of money doing that,
me and Hack were so good. They would come up with such basic strategies.
like that. Yeah, just
Oh,
like a
you're like,
wackadoo, like one type of thing, and then they're like, oh yeah, you just yeah. Now
yeah.
we make like $2,500 an hour doing that. Okay, so we're talking about before solver days where a lot of the stuff was like relegated to like 2+2, where like you would do something, post it, and then defend it, and have to be like, this is why I did this. And I distinctly remember like there would be a lot of hand posts from people like Roble or Dave or Galfond or somebody would post a hand and then somebody would post this response being like, I think you should do this. And then I distinctly remember your most common post being something like fold pre or fold turn. And like Galfond would have like, this much text of like why he did this, what hands he would do this with, what this would be. And then yours underneath would just be fold pre.
Well, I mean, I think like, there were some times I had a bit of an edge on people, right? Even maybe some of the best people,
Yeah.
or times maybe I was one of the best, but at the times I had, maybe like for example, when I played high stakes and had that really good run, a
Mhm.
lot of it was luck, but like it's not very arguable. I was the best player in those games. I was probably best in the world at that time, right? And I was in no rush to tell people it. I was like, let me just fucking keep this in my back pocket, right? Like, and you know, I would talk to Phil and Z and Hack, like we were pretty open with each other. We had like basically agreements where it was like, all right, if we play a hand against each other, we wouldn't talk to each other about it, but we
Yeah.
would lie about other hands and stuff. Um, and I think, we all honored that and it was pretty important for like us learning and stuff like that. But a lot of the other people, like they would lie to their friends and then try to use that
Yeah.
read or then they couldn't iterate. You didn't have GTO Wizard, you didn't have tools like that.
Right.
So what was their source of truth? Right. And so their whole strategies would get fucked up. And I think that's part of why you had so many people that were like flash in the pans and then right. Cause like even if they came along and they had figured out a little bit better strategy, like it's just not gonna last when you're playing smart people. Like they're gonna fit, Z and Hacks three bet and then bet 10% might work at 10-20. When you were playing
Yeah.
with stakes, like people are going to figure out what your tendencies are. Um, and I think, there were probably a few year period where I thought I was, up there some of the time with like a pretty big lead in either no limit or PLO. And I was in no rush to let people know unless I felt like there was a reason I had to kind of thing.
Somebody brought up, when we mentioned that we were having you, a lot of some of your famous hands were coming in as people wanted to talk about, and one that just got posted that you saw the video where Ivey, you bluff Ivey, and he makes a pair of sixes, and I feel like I was talking to Andy just before this started. I feel like Ivey's like getting credit for this hand, and like yeah, he thought a while, but he folded. So like everyone's like, being like, oh, Ivy smelled something, he knew something was up. But ultimately
I
he
used
folded.
to I used to always think he was full of shit. I now like slightly weaken my position only in the last 2 years or something, but I had always thought he was just thinking of shoving because his hand was a reasonable hand to shove. Um, and I don't think it's wrong that he might have smelt something, like he might have thought I was bluffing way more than normal or
Yeah,
whatever. I still don't think he was because I could easily be bluffing like,
with a better hand. Yeah.
yeah, like some hands that have a
Like
pair or whatever. Like I don't
yeah, pair to draw or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but it's like possible. And yeah, so I just don't, you know, I don't really think that's uh I think it's right that he like sometimes Ivy would have reads on me, sometimes I'd have him on him. A lot of times, especially live, I think he was getting more than I was off him, but it was like maybe 60-40, not 70-30. Like
Sure.
it, definitely times I was taxing him and stuff. And he like I still think he in his prime was the best at live reads I've ever seen, at least in, I don't know about in life, but at least in poker. Um, and so I think he probably had something on me that hand, but also like,
But he didn't pull the trigger.
well,
So like,
you said SP rugby earlier, and like I think there were guys like that that didn't want to admit, like I kind of knew these streets were Ivy's, the live streets, and I was like, look, I think I know some of the math and frequency stuff a bit better, right? Like,
yeah,
and I think I had a pretty good balance of like I was trying to be pretty porcupiney, where like I don't think he, times where he went with his reads a little too much, right? Yeah,
yeah.
maybe a hand that GTO Wizard would say is a close fold, he would call if he had to read and be right, or vice versa, but this kind of spot would have been a pretty ridiculous,
Yeah, go
and
for it.
yeah, so I think my suspicion is he was like, fuck, like, what do I do now? I'm probably
And
getting flopped on TV. Fucking Tom, fuck you.
and then once you cross a certain threshold in terms of your time, like a shove is kind of a wackadoo.
I don't know about that because I still think there's like, I don't know how much I agree with that because I think there's an element of like, um,
Genuine thought.
that would have been like 1,000 big blind pot. You can
Okay,
do,
okay, that's fair.
and it's also like, Ivy and I played each other a lot. We wouldn't try to fucking Hollywood each other if we're shoving over 80
Yeah,
big blinds. We would occasionally Hollywood if it's 500 or 1,000 big blinds. You just got it because the reality is you need to think longer.
right.
So if he thought 2 minutes longer than what I would have thought was normal, I still wouldn't necessarily be hero call. I generally would be like
Okay, yeah,
putting a ton of thought into it because that was the kind of thing we'd both balance some. Right. In other words, for the sake of the game, for the sake of the other people there, we wouldn't balance it for 50 big blinds. Like
right.
who can,
A hundred big line cap game or something. It's getting in, and
right?
that's
If
it.
the other guy gets 0.1 big blinds from you because you didn't balance perfect, so what? Just don't be a douchebag or whatever, right? When it's
Yeah,
1,000 big blinds deep, you're really giving away something. It might not only be 10x, it might be like you're giving away 50 big blinds if you fuck up,
yeah,
because
and
it's a more
that's worth
complicated
the extra.
process. Yeah, and so if you spend 2 minutes extra, everyone's like, all right, fine, whatever.
Yep, that's fair.
That was another thing, by the way, about the Doug and Wesley hands. Like people complained about the time I took. If you go play deep stack no limit, like you're really not supposed to get in more than a few hundred big blinds. Hardly ever. It's usually a
Right,
check.
right.
You're getting in a few hundred big blinds. Like you both have the nuts. Um, and I think most people think too long on most hands when they're putting in 60 big blinds. Like, don't be a douchebag. Don't make your 0.1 big blinds by trying to Hollywood longer. If it's once every 3 days, you're putting in, 500 spot where you actually, it's not like a one card straight, but you actually
Right.
in the streets, you could have bullshit or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of fair to think an extra 2 minutes.
We get a lot of questions about the future of poker, and just your thoughts on it and what it looks like, both live, online, and both
I mean, I
cash
think
and tournament.
I think it's pretty fucked unless the organizations step up, and I don't see that many signs of the
What do you mean
organization.
by organizations?
There's not that much individual players can do.
Yeah,
Uh, and I think that the long-term interests of companies that run tournaments, especially online sites, would be to, you know, try to solve for the aspects of poker that I find the most interesting, that I'm guessing you do, I'm guessing Phil does, meaning not trying to make it more like chess, but trying to make it more like a dynamic competitive game where you tweak the rules some so it's not very easy to just go have
Solve
some
it.
tool, right? Make it so that there's actually, something humans are better at, or at least make it harder for solvers to be so good. And there's
Yeah,
like easy things you could do. I told a bunch of the poker bosses this, a bunch of them I told years ago. There's stuff like you could burn a few cards before
sure.
every time, and that wouldn't make a giant difference, but it would make enough, right? If tomorrow I played GTO Wizard, barring some huge exploit I find, like I'm pretty sure I'm close to drawn dead, right? If it had no new programming and you burn 3 or 4 cards, I'm pretty sure I'm betting on me, right? Like I'm not
Yeah,
certain it's definitely going to do some things better, right? But there's things like that you could do to complicate the game in specific ways that don't make it that much harder for human brains, but make it a
yeah,
lot complicated. Um, and I think the reasons people aren't doing that are very short-term decisions, but they're trying to get a little more of the pie as the pie is shrinking.
yeah,
And so I think unless you have structural change from, you know, tournament groups, tournament organizers, but most of all online sites, because they have the most money and power, then you're not gonna, see differences. And also I don't think it's a bad thing for people to spend some of their time on. I think unless people love it, um, 15 years ago, if people were going to gamble, I think poker made sense, right? It was kind of stimulative to your mind and stuff. To go sit there and stare at charts and try to memorize them all day, I don't think that's that valuable of a life skill, right? If you really
yeah.
love, or if you're in some big spot, yeah, you should do it. But right, if it was, if me and you and Galfon go invent a new game and we have no
Yes.
book to study and we play for 2 weeks, I think there are some life skills to learn from that. It might be better
I've said this for a really long time, and I agree completely with you that um, making up games, on the fly, or even tweaking some games, like you just said, so that it changes the rules, so that like I brought up True Teller before, but he just seems like the type that's like in his basement, with the Bunsen burners going, doing the experiments to make sure he gets a leg up on the competition. But it's like, I'll give you an example. We play in a live game, and it's well, we played 6 card PLO the other day, and you pass 2 cards to the left and 2 to the right. So like now you end up with a 6 card hand, and you just pass 2 to the
Well,
left, 2 to
there's
the right.
extra incomplete information because you know what you
You
passed
know
the.
what, this
You
got
don't
2 of
know.
the cards, he has 2. Yeah,
I mean, something like that is, I'm not saying that if OpenAI spent the next year trying to
of
solve it, they
course.
could beat
Yeah,
us. But if you give them a day, they're probably not going to do great, right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah,
LLMs don't do good as is anyway, but it's not that hard to come up with solutions that are pretty reasonable. It's that
yeah,
a lot of poker sites don't want to market those. And so instead, they're basically letting poker die. I think
sure.
what they do is continue marketing things like No Limit Hold'em, maybe have some small tweaks, right? There's certain tweaks you could do. At the same time, tell at least, even if they don't want to tell all, tell at least some of the truth of like this industry as the way it was and basically still is dying. Like you could have something really close to it that could be very interesting and maybe could even be a bunch bigger than the current one. Um, but yeah, people just are lazy, and
Yeah,
don't.
I mean, I see somebody in the comments that mentions like 5 suited poker. That's like a perfect example of like a tweak that would be like, throw things out of whack. And
But like
I
your tweak actually is a more robust one. 5 suited poker, right? If you go put that, I
Yeah,
bet you that would take less time for a GTO wizard or whoever to solve. Your
sure.
tweak is a pretty fucking robust tweak. And I've already, you know, face to face to a lot of the biggest site owners suggested a bunch of different ideas. None have happened, right? To multiple different site owners, including ones I never had business with, anything like that. Like, why is that, right? And to me, I think someone's got to come out and brand as like, yo, we care about the mental aspect, the human aspect of this stuff. We're still going to have the games that the AI tools are better at. We're still going to have the more common games,
Yeah,
whatever.
because you
But
got
we're
to
going
keep
to
the lights
work
on.
towards, yeah, we're going to work towards something else. And I think that would be, good for the world. I think it would make a bunch of money. But people that want to change the world aren't trying to build poker sites generally. So,
Yeah.
you know, you got to find the right person that chooses to go for it.
Um, Tom, I feel like we just scratched the surface. I want to talk. I have like 95 other things I want to talk about. I asked you for like 30, 40 minutes, and you've already gone over. So
Oh,
I
really?
want to I want to chat with you. If there's anything you want to talk about, I'm happy to talk about it. But
Yeah, I want
I'm
to.
also happy to talk about put a pin in a future date, and we can
Yeah,
come back.
let's do two things. I want to say one thing. One is,
Sure.
I talked to you on the phone a little. I don't want to get into it too much, but I happened to notice some shit April, or right before my flight, but my April 26th flight last year.
Yeah.
A ton of complications came up for me. I'm not trying to make it my business, but it's also the strategy of just run away that a lot of people seem to think, in my opinion, is really the wrong strategy here. Trying to dive headlong into it and play politics or something would also be retarded, and I'm definitely not trying to do that. Um, Unfortunately, because of that, I think it would be in my interest to do a bit more public stuff. I'd rather do stuff with a goat farmer, so no one can
That's
really
me.
think I'm trying to play politics. But yeah, let's do another one in a few weeks or a month or
You got
whatever.
it.
Chat about some stuff. And yeah, this was cool. So
Okay, you have an open forum with me. I'm happy to chat anytime. I really appreciate you coming on. I was really glad that you texted me back right away and said, let's do it. I thought that was awesome. It was
oh,
good to hear your
and
voice.
one other thing on that note I want to say is like
Yeah.
there's stuff I've told you on the phone that I don't want to say publicly right now, but like there's times I've had the right info in poker and like that's panned out, right? There's obviously times I had stuff wrong, but like generally when it mattered,
More often you
pretty
had it than you
sure,
didn't.
usually I had it, right? Like the limit game, whatever.
Yeah,
I've told you, I've told a number of other people some details around this, some more than others. You and I only talked on the phone, so you only have a little, but like there was specific stuff I noticed that was almost definitely tied to MSS, which is Chinese intelligence into OpenAI. There's a reason that I'm covering my ass with this stuff. I'm sorry if it annoys people me posting on Twitter, but like I'm trying to do what I can to cover my ass and not be involved and talk to the goat farmers.
that's
Uh,
me.
so yeah, anyway, let's chat in a month.
Okay,
And
I do want to mention a couple things that
oh
my
yeah, what was
colleague
the
Andy put
comment?
together.
What was the
Yeah,
comment?
so a few things. First of all, we put together a playlist of Run It Once videos that feature you in them.
Thank you.
So it's probably a lot of the videos are probably from a long time ago, but I don't know how many videos we have, but they're going to be free for everyone. So even if you have a basic account, they're going to be free. You can watch those. Second, um,
Can you post a link of that and then I'll like read
sure,
or
definitely.
something? Yeah.
Second, we for those of you that stuck around to the end, we have a bonus code Tom. If you join Run It Once with bonus code Tom, you get 25% off Vision or your Elite membership.
All right. Cool.
Third thing, Tom was going to pick a handful of questions that he liked or just names of people that he liked.
No, no, I
Uh,
want to pick a question. Let's see someone who like contributed
okay,
something.
you
So,
go into the chat and pick a question that you like.
oh, okay. I don't know how to.
Um, it can be any question you want, and we're going to give this person a free elite. You can answer whatever question you want, and we'll be giving them a free elite membership.
How much is an elite membership
$199.
for like a year or whatever?
A 1 month, a 1 year is 1,400.
Oh, so they get it for a month. Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, $200 reasonable.
Ooh, Danielle Stryker proposes marriage.
I was about to say that person because they asked the Wesley hand, but I don't know about that. I don't think my girlfriend would be too happy, man. So I don't know. You might have just lost your one at once thing. There's no other questions. That's the only person that proposed a question. Um,
All right, I'm going to give you a chance. We got a few questions.
can I like reply to it? Oh, sorry, one sec.
Yes, you can reply, but pick whoever you want. And then Andy will take care of the gifting of the membership. Even if you want, even it doesn't have to be one.
One
You're
guy
not
asked English degree, but I don't have an English degree. That was just like bad reporting by WPT, but I don't think that deserves a lead or whatever.
you don't have to limit it to one. I'm feeling generous today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, all right, so let's give this Danielle strike one because they said the Queens, but no marriage, yo. I'm taking it.
Okay. All right. Tom says no. Andy, mark up Danielle. She gets one.
But yeah, but no marriage. And let me find this. There was the one about oh, here we go. No, all right. Future of short duck. I don't
Okay.
know enough. I wish I could answer. No, but I mean, I don't know because I don't have a good enough answer because I haven't been playing in China the last few years. Um,
Grab your top three.
no, I'm gonna just do one more. I think the guy
Okay.
asking the London thing I would have answered, but he's saying paranoia and like it fucking wasn't. It was an intelligence operation. So don't give that guy fucking thing.
Okay.
Fuck. Um, haven't been to Russia. No, that doesn't serve one. I'm gonna. There's one above about. Oh, okay. All right. Jackie Acklesberg. How did you know Eastgate had a better hand than Greenstein? That's a
Love
good
it.
one.
Love it.
All right, so let's give her one to
Okay.
him. Too.
Andy's got it.
So I didn't know that, but it made sense that he would have a deuce.
Well,
Green.
set the stage with what you're talking
Oh,
about.
okay, yeah, sorry. So I think Greenstein raised under the gun. I think I called next to act. I think we're playing eight-handed, and I'm pretty sure everyone called. I
That
think we're
matches.
2,500 and everyone called. So there's like 20K in there plus probably a few $100 of antes. I don't know how big
Yeah.
the ante is. I think it's like 300, 600. It could be 4-8 or something. I'm not sure. And I think I had queen 10. I think it was suited, but maybe I was just being a degen and it was offsuit. Um, the flop comes 10-2-2 and it checks to Greenstein and he bets 10K. And I thought he might like continuation bet here too much. So I make a really fucking weird play and make it like 38K, which is terrible on paper. Like it's terrible if you go put it into a solver, I'm sure. I mean, I never did, but I'm guessing. Um, but I had like some reasons I thought it might work out. And Eastgate called and I was like, fuck, my money's gone. Bye. Like I'm ready to leave the casino. Like I give up the hand. And Greenstein calls too, and I'm like, what is this? Makes no sense. Like when Eastgate calls, he almost for sure has a deuce.
Yeah.
Um, and so then I'm like, oh shit, I might have a spot. I don't know that I think that it's bluff plus EV to bluff there, but like I have been making a lot, both online and live. And um, I was planning to do stuff I could for like, you know,
I was
kind
gonna
of
say,
advertising like type thing.
did the larger ramifications play a part? Like, were you in
Only
the
a
moment
little.
a
Where I
little?
was
Okay.
looking, I was like, all right, if it seems close, I'm gonna go for it. Right.
Okay.
And like in hindsight, I don't know that this was plus EV, even if all my reads were dialed,
Yeah.
alone that obviously some chance my reads wouldn't have been and whatever. But I had basically kind of decided like if there's a spot I can do something really degen looking where everyone thinks I'm losing 50K and I think I'm losing two, I'm gonna just go for it and hope I'm
Yeah.
actually, And so
Well,
this
the
was
fact that we're talking about it today proves that it is.
right. So this was one of those spots. And one thing I think a lot of people were missing is Eastgate, in my opinion, was really good. But we had played a lot at like 25-50 online.
Yeah.
Stakes were big for him. And, I think even he would have probably agreed. I was probably slightly better than him at the time. But I think I literally might have been expected to make a quarter of a big blind 100, half a big blind 100. Like he was very good. And it happened, I had probably made 10 big blinds 100 over him for the last month. Like I had just run, it was like one of the best I ever ran versus anyone at 25-50. And I
Yeah.
was I just don't think this guy's finding it. Like he knows I've been crushing everyone in all the big games, online and live lately. He doesn't play live that much. He's in the like I was just like, I think he's just gonna be like, fuck you, Tom, and fold, you know? And that's
Yeah.
basically what happened. And then he folded and I was like, I win. And then Goldstein sitting, or not Goldstein, Greenstein's
Greenstein.
thinking. And I'm like, no. Like that's
Don't ruin
I'm
this.
like, dude, he just folded a deuce. Like, what the fuck are you thinking about, man?
Don't ruin this for me.
Kind of forgot to consider that part because I was like, once Eastgate folds, like I'm good. I just gotta hope
That's
he
funny.
right. And then when Greenstein's taking, I'm like, I made the worst. Like I'm pretty sure he's still gonna fold, but I'm like, even if he was 10 or 20% to call, like what a torch. Like I thought I was giving
Yeah.
up 5,000 and 2,000 looking DGen. I was giving up like 20K, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, then Greenstein folded. And then I remember everyone was like betting about it. And I was basically, 90% that Eastgate had the best hand, right? It was like
Yeah.
Greenstein has an overpair and Eastgate has a deuce, like almost for sure. Um, and I think if Eastgate had like King Deuce or Ace Deuce suited, he would have probably been like, "Fuck you, you get my money," like, and look me
Yeah.
up. And he called the turn. I'm pretty sure I was giving up. But yeah, so
Love
there
it.
was one other I was going to answer.
Okay,
So
go for it.
it was a Doug thing. I think it was above. If anyone had one below, sorry, they're not getting where someone had a good one, but I don't know. I don't
I
know if it
had
was.
like a list of like prop bets I was going to talk to you about. I had a bunch of
Let's do
stuff.
it next because I'd rather
Okay.
do, especially after my London shit. It's better for me to do a few split up ones.
Okay.
Um, so I shouldn't say London. The flight was worse than London, actually. And once I
Sure.
got soil, they weren't as bad. All right. So with the hand versus Doug, this is Dave Di Giovanni. Can we give him one too?
You got
Uh,
it. Andy,
so
you heard it. Dave, what is it?
Dave Di Giovanni.
Okay. Got it.
I don't know if I can reply or whatever. All right. With the hand versus Doug was your live read of the tell from Wesley having seen Doug's hand. Um, I would basically say no. Like that, there were little bits of that of like me discounting certain hands and stuff. What I'll say is how he acted, that starts telling a story. And how he acted combined with Wesley having seen his hand, combined with what Wesley said, in
Yeah.
my opinion, meant I was able to actually start narrowing his range a ton. There were some hands that could have still pretty easily fit, but there were others that I thought didn't as well, like sixes, like deuces. And I like the hand he had, I think it was 4 or 5 suited, something like that fits perfect. Right. And basically the hands that would fit perfect with that story were all hands where I should just call. And the hands that wouldn't fit perfect, or there was a pretty material issue with, those, have had in my head been quite a bit discounted. So
Right.
it meant like on paper, I think I would have thought three betting was making, I don't know, 30K, 80K, 60K. Like I'd need to think about it, go back, look at the numbers, but like a very material amount. The blinds are only 501K, right? Or maybe not three betting, four betting, whatever. Re-raising, I think I would have thought was making a lot more than just calling. But when you factor in that combination of circumstances, so
Yeah.
being what Wesley said and that stuff, but more of it being like Doug's actions himself. But I wouldn't have trusted those by themselves that much, right? Because he's a smart guy. He could trick me. The chance of him tricking me combined with what Wesley just said, he doesn't know what Wesley's going to say. He's not going to be that fast.
Right.
Then I can
It's like
start
a parlay of stuff.
exactly. And so then you can start really discounting and being like, yo, all this shit going together, not so likely. And it's still not like I was sure or anything, but right, if you had to guess, call it, say 30 to 80K neighborhood of what I would have guessed equity wise, re-raising compared to calling, I thought I could make up for that. And that's literally 30 to 80 big blinds, right? That's a huge amount. That's how much the read kind of gave me, where to me it seemed pretty clear that I was like, fuck, I really didn't want to call. I was like, fuck my life. If I call and he hits a gut shot, I'm gonna be so mad. Like if I thought it
Yeah.
was, I was gonna just raise, right? That's part of why it took so long. I was like, fuck this, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, so
All
anyway,
right. Tom, that was awesome. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to doing it again. Thanks for doing it, man.
All right, would you give me a little something since I tried to give you some stuff? Give me like a
Um,
second goat story.
oh man.
You
What do
got
you
to
want to
end on
know?
a goat story. I don't know. Just tell us something that people don't know about the goats, about the goat farm. Something funny,
Um,
good. What do you got?
I would say check out my Instagram, Bluff and Goat
Oh,
Farm.
buddy, come on. You can't rug me. Come on, give us something.
Oh man.
Like a crazy goat story. What happened?
They're pretty straightforward creatures.
All right,
They don't have a
next
lot
time.
to them.
Next time.
Oh, I'll tell you a story. Okay, fine,
All right.
fine. Okay. There's a guy that lives, kind of off the beaten path on my farm. Or I shouldn't start it out this way. There's a guy doing some work on my farm. Okay. And he texts me. He gets there in the morning at like 9 a.m. He's like fixing something. And he texts me and he says, hey, there's like there's like somebody like cutting up one of your goats or something like that. And I was like, what? And so I was like, that's not good. And so I was like, can you send me a picture? He sends me a picture. He's like far away, and he's like, I'm not getting any closer to this guy. And there's like an animal hung up on a rack by its hind legs, and someone's cutting up this animal. And so I was like, shit. So like, what is this? So I go to my farm and I'm pulling up, and it's the aforementioned dude that lives down the road a little bit, and he was there, and he was like, "Hey, Mikey, what's up?" And I was like, "What's up, man?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah." And I was like, "Someone said you're like cutting up the goat," and he was like, "No, this is a sheep." And I was like, "Oh," and he's like, "Yeah, my friend gave me a sheep." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I should also mention this guy's like 6'10" Serbian guy. So and it was summer, so all he had on is like these overalls, covered in blood. And he was like, "No, definitely not your goat. Don't worry, not your goat." And I was like, "All right, man. Keep doing what you're doing." And I just kind of like back off, and that was it. So it was a sheep that
All
his
right.
friend gave him. That was, he was making sheep food, making mutton.
That's a pretty good story from the goat farm.
So, all right,
All right,
Tom,
see you.
thank you so much. We will talk soon.
All right, sounds good.
Bye.